Pete painted his Porsche red. Not really. We're at our buddy Dano's place, and he's about to put this monstrosity in it. You guys recognize this VW bug up here? Oh wait, sorry Dano, it's a 964? Is it a 930? I don't know what it is. Peter, tell us what this car is.
I'd say it's a 911.
It's a 911.
1978.
It's not.
So it's a
disguised.
Yeah, well, it's
So it's just called a 911.
just called a 911.
It's not a
And in
930.
fact, this thing, by all measure, is a mutt. So it's VINed a 1977 Porsche 911. But for the trained Porsche eye, you'll see that there's been some sort of modern upgrades to the bumpers, to the brakes. So on the road, when this thing's on the ground, it looks like a 964 turbo or 965. But it is, in fact, a 77.
And speaking of being a mutt, as you can see here, Dan is doing a very bad thing to his 911. He's sticking a giant twin turbo V8 in there.
Yeah.
Why would you do such a thing, Dan? Why?
Well, you know, in true mutt fashion, when I bought this car, and I've had this car for about 3 years, it was built in the Nopi days. So for anybody that's...
yes.
Going way back.
Going way back. So sort of internet legend of this car was it was built by a guy named Eddie Bello. So for anybody that's watching YouTube videos, he actually still drag races something like a 1200 horsepower 911.
Really?
But he's been doing it forever. And apparently what the research I've done has told me was this car was actually built by Eddie Bello, who had a shop in New York City.
Okay.
And built this for a guy who was competing in Nopi type stuff.
Okay.
So this car was built as a show drag car.
There's been girls in bikinis sitting on the trunk of this car. Probably.
Very, very likely, and I think I'm still buffing the grease marks off. But needless to say, when I bought this car, it looked like this on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
It had a built 3.3 liter air-cooled motor that was twin turboed. What I was told is it made 650 wheel.
Okay.
Had gone 1040s in the quarter, and was basically set up as a show drag car. The interior was horrendous.
Really?
It had racing bucket seats, like aftermarket ones,
Mm-hmm.
but in typical early 90s fashion, they were red and black vinyl.
Vinyl, yeah, you got to have the vinyl interior.
Those were out
in a hurry,
as fast as I could get the car home.
Yeah.
And after I started doing some digging, this car was just not built to my liking or my standards. So I started taking things apart and I started investigating. And the more I did that, the more I decided that I couldn't go forward with some of the things that I saw.
Right.
And one of the things that I saw was this old 3.3 liter. So that's just the bare long block now, but it is tired and it is broken and it needed to go.
Okay. So the cost of rebuilding something like that versus the cost of doing something visually insane like this actually you think is a more cost-effective route?
Well,
or was it just I want to do something cool and different?
There's that,
Yeah.
but unquestionably the pocketbook made a decision here because this thing. I mean, I've been in automotive for 15 years. I've got lots of connections that get me access to parts and service and expertise.
Yeah.
And my cost, even for gaskets and the rebuild components of this, barring any disaster when you peel it apart, was an easy $10,000.
Yeah.
That doesn't include anything that you find wrong with it. And actually, as I took this apart, it turns out that the cams were wiped. This had some bottom end noise, which means the crank may be gone.
Right.
So that $10,000 was going to get to probably $30,000
easily
in the blink of an eye.
Peter knows about rebuilding these motors.
So
they're not cheap.
So for reference, I bought this Chevy V8 on Kijiji, delivered $500.
Sweet.
So,
and what is it? Is it LS1, 2,
well,
3?
this technically this engine code is called an LM7.
Okay.
Which is a iron block 5.3 liter truck motor.
Okay.
I knew that I was going to boost the car.
Yeah.
Which means as much as the aluminum blocks can take an ass kicking, I just wanted a little bit of protection.
Sure.
So I went with the iron block.
So you knew you were going to put turbo into it. Why not get the iron block?
All day long. One of the things that I loved about this car when I bought it was the twin turbo setup.
Yeah.
So I knew I was always going to twin turbo again. I
Yeah.
just needed a different heart
Right.
to move everything around.
And you did your homework, obviously, and knew that parts existed to support this swap already?
This probably isn't possible without a company in Las Vegas called Renegade Hybrids.
Right.
And Renegade is a company that has been taking Porsches, and they've been doing it for 911s, Caymans, Cayennes, 996s, the early 911s,
Okay.
and basically saying when there's an opportunity to get rid of that flat six motor,
Yeah.
let's put a V8 in it. And they've done all of the research and all of the homework on the things required to make that conversion possible. So things like a cradle that helps you bolt up the LS motor straight to the pickup points on the chassis.
Okay.
They allow the motor to be mated to the factory Porsche transaxle, and they do that via an adapter plate.
Yeah.
They've got a pretty cool system for cooling the car. Now that we've gone to water as opposed to air cooled, you need to introduce a water pump. And the reason why we've gone to an electric here is the factory water pump on an LS-based car sits up here, and it's actually there's not room in the back of that chassis.
Right.
So it sits here. So you actually have to get rid of that to give yourself some real estate inside the engine bay.
Yeah.
So you actually convert to this remote mount water setup. And as part of their kit too, which I think we'll see as I build the car more,
Yeah.
you actually convert to a front rad setup that uses a custom gas tank and a custom V-mounted rad up in the front of the car, and basically that introduces the water in the system to keep all this cool. So they've done a lot of really good thinking on how this stuff works and how it fits in that chassis. And again, this probably couldn't be possible without their homework and what they've done to make this possible.
So they kind of cover the mechanical hard part stuff as far as mounting the engine in the chassis.
They actually do a complete turnkey solution as well, and I think in their shop in Vegas, that's all they do.
Okay.
Is conversions for customers. I'm a bit of a do-it-yourselfer, so that wasn't an option that I needed to take advantage of. But I think they'll also do PCM reflashing. They do custom harnesses, strict plug and play. I'm an EFI guy, so I'm going to go to a Haltech Elite to manage the running of this car, and,
Right.
and of course that'll introduce a custom loom and all of that stuff. But
Right.
they do as turnkey as you want, and their website is actually based on a menu system, so you can buy all of the bits and pieces that you need, or they sell a main kit. So for example, the main kit is the cradle and the conversion
Adapter plate, yeah.
and a flywheel. And I added on the gas tank, I added on the cooling system,
Right.
but they've got some other stuff that should you need it, or should you don't have a solution yourself, you can leverage them.
So the rest of this shiny stuff is of your own invention, your own design. You worked with Rene from Centerline. Is
Yeah,
he still,
so I've-
still called Centerline?
It's Centerline, yeah. Centerline Motorsports. He's in Brampton, Ontario, and he's just been a guy that I've used in various builds in the past. And I mean, obviously, a very talented, very creative fabricator who sort of embraced this project for what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got some complexity to it because of the real estate challenges that we've got in the engine bay, but. He and I kind of worked together to think about what we wanted the exhaust to look like when it comes out, where we wanted the turbos positioned, how we wanted to use an intercooler with a large core, how we wanted the pipes to be run. I'm also doing something unique when I convert to Haltech Elite, where I'm converting to drive-by-wire throttle.
Oh, are you?
So that introduces a little bit of a challenge back here.
Yeah.
But we've kind of got that solved with what looks to be about 1,000,001 pie cuts.
I do love the pie cuts. It's very JDM on a
Very-
U.S. motor into a German car.
That's right.
I'm digging that. So you selected the intercooler core with Rene.
Yeah.
All of this was custom built.
Yeah,
And have you had it actually in the bay yet to see if it clears?
I have. So everything was actually built in the car because
was it?
we knew that you can't do this out of the car and then try to figure it out
Let's
after
just
the
cross
fact.
our fingers and see if it
So
fits.
basically,
Yeah.
everything you see is within millimeters of tolerance to
Yeah.
to parts of the car, and in some cases you'd be surprised how much space there actually is to work. So for example, doing a spark plug service on this thing in the car is an absolute no-brainer. I wanted to make sure that servicing this thing was going to be easy in the future, which is why you'll see van jams
Yeah.
basically everywhere. Even just the way the intercooler is supported and mounted to the top of the motor.
That's clever.
You know, drop these two bolts, loosen these two front bolts on the front, and it's
Yeah.
actually slip fit onto the top of the motor. So basically everything you see literally comes off in under 5 minutes, and that lets you get access to almost every vital component that you would need to service.
And Renee made the headers as well.
Yeah,
Those are his own. You guys collaborated on the layout of those.
that's right. So I mean, if I had gangster money, I would have gone with Nelson mirror turbos, which
Yeah.
also made by Turbonetics.
Yeah.
But those were out of the
ballpark.
out of the equation. So what I wanted was where the system is seen from the outside of the car to appear symmetrical, but that's very difficult to do when you're
Yeah.
using the same turbo on each side of the car, because the compressors are angled differently.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I see that.
so you'll see if you took a closer look, each one of these manifolds is unique to each side.
Right.
As much as this is a twin turbo setup, you just cannot get each side mirrored without mirror
Yeah.
turbos. So there are some nuances side to side, but from the back of the car, when this is up, the exhaust looks completely symmetrical. What you see with the engine open is the top of the intercooler and these pipes, which appear completely symmetrical. So we made the best of
Yeah.
what we had to do.
Well, it looks pretty damn sexy sitting here. I'm not giving you a hard time about that. The
I should be
turbos
giving
are-
you a hard time because
I
all
know.
these little
These
fingerprints
fingerprints are
you've made.
mine. I've been playing the piano up here.
That's
Sorry
it.
about that. Where's your?
I got
where's
some
your,
microfiber around here.
microfiber?
I'll sort it out. I'll sort it out when you're done.
The turbos are Turbonetic units.
Yeah, so we've gone with their new billet TNX40 turbos. So
Yeah.
basically, I wanted something that this car has no function other than to be wacky and wild. And it's not a race car, it's not a drag car, it's not a drift car, it's a nothing other than just cruising and having fun and scaring the shit out of people, including myself. So because it is going to see street duty 98% of the time,
Yeah.
I wanted response. I would hate to put a V8 in a car and then suffer with a little bit of lag.
Right.
So to go with the TNX40s in this configuration, we're going to have instant boost. I won't have to run a lot of boost to make a ton of power.
Yeah.
I think on pump, low boost. I think in the gates I put 0.5 bar springs, so we're going to
Okay.
run 7 pounds of boost on no boost control, and really, I wouldn't be surprised to make 600 wheel
I'm sure you will. Yeah.
on that low boost. So that's going to be plenty. I'm still going to use the Haltech Elite to control solenoids, to control boost.
Sure.
And in fact, I'm doing something fun too with the drive-by-wire throttle. The pedal that I've decided to use is actually from a BMW 335 that has basically a 2-stage throttle pedal
Really?
that has a kickdown switch for an automatic transmission, and I'll use the signal for the kickdown as a scramble boost. So you'll be
okay.
full throttle, 7 pounds of boost, and with your foot,
Yeah.
kick down to scramble to 15 pounds of boost. And,
Right.
whatever that ends up being.
So when a McLaren pulls up next to you, you've got a little extra. Yeah, I got you.
If I can keep it straight and going in the right direction and not trying to kill myself,
Good plan.
yeah, knock on wood,
So-
wherever it may be.
Yeah, please. This is a family show. We're not knocking on any wood here. So, this is looking like it's ready to go in the car. What are the next steps in the
Well,
build?
so all the hard fabrication is done, and now basically I'm just on final assembly to do all the plumbing for the oil and water for the turbos.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a lot of the vac line running when it's out on the car. There really isn't much that has to be done now to this setup to actually put it back in the car. I'm just working on it out of the car to make my life a little bit easier. But
Sure.
you're right. It can go in. The only thing that I need to do back here
Yeah.
is I just mocked up the transaxle on the adapter plate as it sits now. But right now, actually, there's no clutch. There's no clutch
really?
in the car. So I actually used Bully Clutch in Ottawa to take my stock Porsche pressure plate
Yeah.
and build something unique for this application.
Okay.
So what they did is it was a Sachs pressure plate,
Yeah.
and they actually took it apart, altered all the pivot points to make it have more clamping force for the torque that this setup will generate.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it feels in daily driven sort of activity. But
that's a wrap for this episode. In our next visit in Dano's special man cave here, we will show you his front end solution for cooling, for fuel, and we may even get down to showing you some of this sweet electronic stuff he sourced. It's a bit like Christmas in here with all these goodies. Thanks for letting us invade, and you'll see both of us talking about this car on the internet sometime soonish. How long do you think it's going to be before this stuff starts to go in the car?
well, now that all of the outsourcing of the work has been done, everything that needs to happen can all happen in the garage here, and it will fire before snow is gone in the spring. So I'll be working on it all winter, but soon, all this stuff is ready to go.
So we might be wearing warm clothes next episode, but hang in there, guys. This is going to be pretty cool. Well, I think I'm going for a ride right now, Dan. Yeah, let's go, PT. Come on, buddy. Giddy up. All right. That's the world's longest first cut.